All right, so fall's coming here in Calgary. Everything's getting super brown and ugly, and it's my least favorite time of year to shoot. So, bought myself a new camera to make me happier. So, I have no real expectation to get photos from today that I'm like in love with, but the whole premise of today is just go out. First off, just pick up the new gear that I am very excited about. Just to restate, Fuji 32-64. Come on now. Come on now. There we go. 32-64 f4. It's not like a fast lens, but it's fast enough for that wider stuff. On the 100S is a fantastic pairing so far from like some really quick test photos. The sun's kind of coming down. It's going to get dark pretty quick, and it's definitely not the ideal day out, but we'll kind of just see what we can get up to. Test the camera out and kind of give my opinion on the camera itself. I think digital medium format and how it compares to 6.7 film. And then I'll kind of go over all the results that I got from today at home. Now, granted, this isn't typically the work I do. I'm much more looking forward to using this camera in portrait settings. It is great for landscape. Landscape just isn't typically something I shoot a lot of. So either way, should have a fun time, but I'll share the results in a bit. It's pretty nice. This is better than I thought it'd be. Essentially, to summarize all the things I've said so far, this camera's great, and I know I have a really small sample size of what it is that I've got to use it for, but the form factor I love. The lens selection I love because I have lenses that I can adapt, and I think the Fuji lenses are pretty solid too, from what I've tried. And it's a high quality camera. Like, there's nothing wrong with this camera. There's nothing bad about this camera in my opinion. The classic, it's a slower camera, it's meant to slow you down. People like to be slowed down, or people don't like to be slowed down. So like whatever it is, you know the type of camera you're getting. For me now, I have slow cameras, I have film. When I want to take time and be intentional, I have those cameras. For me, it's just a matter of like, is this camera a joy to use? If I can still get somewhat of the look of 6.7 and I can get high quality images that I can work really well with in post, all of that stuff, it's more so to me now if this is a fun camera. I have the Sony a7 IV. I have my film cameras that are fun. This camera is not fun. This does not inspire me. It's great at what it does. It's a technically like perfect camera to me. But I don't take that out when I want to go take photos of this stuff, of street photography, of portraiture. Like, it just doesn't inspire me at all because it's too clinical and perfect. So yeah, I mean, if this is the nice in-between of when I want to shoot digital but still have fun doing it, then great, then I found my camera. Plus it also serves the commercial and professional use. So I think now it's a matter of just going home, looking at these files, using it in more shoots and testing it out. But I don't really have a fair comparison of like, does this replace my film cameras? And I actually know the answer to that already. It won't. It's just a matter of if it's the right digital camera for me. So more of that to come. I'm gonna get some more stuff out here. We'll go back, edit some photos, and just see what we got. One other thing to mention, I have no desire to be Gerald Undone at all. So I might at some point talk about the technical specs of this, but in no realm is that what I'm going to be doing YouTube or any of those things for. I'm here to like have fun, and just journal my process. So if you want the technical specs of this, don't ask me. But 100 megapixel camera, that's all that matters. All right, let's talk the GFX. I've had the body for about a week now, which is not a whole lot of time to give my opinion, but I figured with all the time that I've spent with it in the last little bit and trying to get out and shoot with it, I could kind of give my initial thoughts. I think down the road, once I've had more time to use some more native lenses on it and shoot it in different scenarios, I'll have a better, well-rounded thought of the system. But for the time being, there's actually a lot of opinions I have to share. So although I've only had this system for about a week now and really only used it 1 or 2 times for some landscape work, I did get to test some things that were really important to me. Yesterday when I shot some of that footage and those photos out kind of in the prairies and the countryside, I was out fairly late and really got to test the ISO capabilities of the camera. I pushed that all the way to 12,800 ISO, I believe, and the files are usable. That's with a lens that only opens up to f4, so it's pretty good. The medium format sensor lets in a lot of light. The pixels are super huge. I think that's how it works. Don't quote me on that. And yeah, so that was really exciting. One of the other things that I have to commend is the autofocus. I know some people would look at that camera and compare it to some things like some of the Lumix bodies, the Sony autofocus, I'm sure even Canon autofocus, and say it's really slow. Honestly, my only other experience with a camera like that was the 50S2, and they're worlds apart. And so I'm perfectly happy to use an autofocus like that. That's fast enough, especially, again, coming from something like a Sony that's super quick, or 6.7 film, which has no autofocus at all. So it's good enough for me. One of the other things that I'm really happy about is the built-in aspect ratios to the GFX. I love being able to visualize my stuff. When there's times that I want to shoot square, it's way easier to just see it as square. In the times that I want to shoot panoramic, to be able to stop down to the Hasselblad and XT1, I think it's like 65 by 24 or something like that. It's a fun aspect ratio. It doesn't really have a place to be displayed. Like Instagram, it's not great for. Web, it's not great for. But I love printing it out and things like that. So being able to have those things in camera and not have to kind of do the guesswork and be able to really accurately frame those things is awesome to me. One of the things that is built into the GFX that I don't really care for is the film sims. I know that's one of Fuji's huge selling points, and I think it's a great feature in general. But when I'm using this camera, I'm not often grabbing JPEGs out of a 100 megapixel camera and saying, okay, they're good to go. I want the flexibility, I want the dynamic range, I want those huge files to be able to post-process with. They are good to get a first glimpse of what the final image might kind of look like and to get some colors in camera that, you might edit towards, but it's not a huge selling point on those cameras. Speaking of those really big files, though, they are slow. I don't have a slow computer by any means. I'm using a Mac Studio that's not a base spec, and they're still slow to work with. Not like incredibly slow, but slow. So that's one thing to think about. They take up space. You gotta be patient with them, and that's fine. I'm not trying to crank out 5,000 photos per day with this camera, so that's something I can manage and deal with. But all that being said, you got a glimpse into using the camera yesterday. I did go out and film with it a couple days ago before I had picked up the 32-64 and was just using some adapted Pentax 6.7 lenses on it. So I'm going to share some of that and the results I got with that, just so you can see how vintage 6.7 film glass renders on this amazing sensor. I was really happy with everything all around. I think the one thing that I've noticed is things feel really real, and I don't like to edit them too far, and I think that's just kind of the style of these cameras. Color rendition is great, and so I like keeping it like that. So aside from some small tweaks, I tried to keep things pretty to life. But all that being said, so far in the first week, I'm a fan of the camera. It's not something that I'm 100% sold on yet, but in my time using it, I have no complaints with it. So I'll continue to play around with it. I look forward to trying it in some scenarios, like I've said many times, like portrait and studio work, that I think it'll really thrive and excel in. But until then, here's some of the stuff that I've shot with it so far.